to look at in a broader perspective. So that's why these days, whenever I go and visit some institutions, and I always not only give my technical talk, and I also started giving this talk about sharing my own failures. So thereby we can see that failures are not that bad and we can always get around them. And so that's why I put also a question mark at my title, Failures Are Pathway to Success. But very rarely when we are growing up, neither parents nor teachers tell us that failure is okay. Because we're always told that, you have to study hard and you should be the school first. And if you're not at the school first or a class first, and what are you doing? And those sorts of things, in fact, particularly that seems to be very normal in the Asian societies, particularly because of the fact that education is given a lot of importance, and of course for good reasons. Because large populations and there's a lot of demand and then very limited number of opportunities. So that's why every parent thinks that their kids should do well in their studies. And if they do that one, then they'll have a better life. And that's why they care about us. And that's why they do that sort of thing. So as has been mentioned, I am from the Australian National University in Canberra, Australia. And so then I also have honorary appointments in India and Japan and China and Taiwan. And so also that I have been having visiting professorship in University of California, San Diego and Oxford. And in fact, this year I was planning to be in Cambridge, but unfortunately I had to cancel my trip because of the COVID. And so probably I'll try to go there probably next year or following year or so sort of thing. It's a really pleasure to work with various colleagues in various parts of the world. And really beauty of science and engineering is that there are no national boundaries. We can all work together and we can make progress together, and we can share the credit also together. We don't have to feel everything we have to own, and we can always be, collaborative and cooperative. And I have collaborated with researchers from 30 plus countries and co-authored papers with them, from Sweden and Finland and Norway to South Africa and Brazil to China and Singapore and to India and South Korea, Japan, and so really in the US, UK, and many European countries. So really, for me, that's a pleasure is to really work with colleagues and be open-minded in terms of other points of view, and so thereby collectively we can learn and make progress. So I also tried to show two pictures of me, and one of them is it was taken when I was in my year 12. And so now, of course, this right side picture is the one which has been taken about 3 or 4 years back or so. And also you can see that I also want to prove to many of you that I was not born bald, and then I used to have hair as well. So then also that to show that the transformation from being an young man to a senior person in life. So before I proceed further, and then all of you know about IEEE Photonics Society, and it's a home for a global network of scientists and engineers and who advance lasers and optoelectronics and photonics technology for the benefit of humanity. This is something is very important for us to always think about when you're dealing with in science and technology, the importance of what difference you want to make to the world and what difference you want to make to the humanity, rather than only focusing on ourselves. Because ultimately, whatever the science and engineering we're doing, it needs to benefit the humanity. And as you know that IEEE has got about 430,000 members, and Photonics Society has got 7,000 members. And so if you are not a member, then please join the society and be part of the global community. And why you should join the society? And Photonics Society really provides lots of opportunity to publish your work in journals and attend conferences and awards and IEEE fellow recognition, and lots of scholarships provided to graduate students and distinguished lecturer program, and travel grants to attend conferences supported by the Photonics Society, and various student chapters really provide opportunities for you to really provide leadership and gain networking and leadership skills as well. And again, also supporting young professionals, women in photonics, and outreach and educational activities and engagement with industry, and also humanitarian activities, providing solar LED lamps, and providing light library, where we provided funding some countries in Africa, where the lights are provided to the library. When a child comes to the library to pick up a book, they can also borrow a lamp, a solar LED lamp, so that when they don't have any electricity at home, they can bring light home as well. Also that we are supporting things like IEEE Smart Village, where these people are going to remote parts of the world and providing solar panels and LED lights and other things so that they can bring electricity to the various parts of the world. So that's a key message here, is that we need to really think about serving the community and serving the humanity while making progress in our own lives and whatever the dreams we have. So really, here is my own childhood. And so really, I started my life in a very small village in India. And I come from the agriculture family and the farming family. My parents and my grandparents were all farming. And so, in fact, I studied in front of a kerosene lamp till I finished my year 7. Though we have electricity in that village, but my grandfather felt that installation of electricity is too expensive, and then he never bothered to do it because we are not coming from a rich family. So sort of I would call it as a lower middle class family. I don't call it as poor because there have been more poorer people than we are in India. So that's why I call it as some sort of a lower middle class family also. So my father was a school teacher. And so then, of course, we're all expected to study. And it's interesting thing is that my grandfather used to think that, why are you wasting your time? You should go and help out in the farm. But my father, being a teacher, he used to insist that we should study or so. So I studied, and when I was 10 years old, my father ended up migrating to even a more remote place quitting his teacher's job and then buying more lands and then want to develop them. And in that village, there was no even electricity, and we had to walk 5 miles to go home. And so this is which I'll come back to. So then, because after finishing my year 7, and in my village there is no high school, so then my father wanted me to study, but he asked many of my relatives, and can you host him, because in the village where he moved to, there's no school at all, but none of the relatives really came forward and then wanted to really host me. So then it so happened that he happened to mention this to his two of his friends, and his classmate, Sri Chaganti Sambireddy, and late Sri Vallur Srinivasrao, his teacher. And then my maths teacher said that, why don't you ask him to come and stay with us? So I really lived with my maths teacher and during my year 8, 9, 10, and then be able to stay with them. They treated me like their own child. And so then I finished my high school there. And then from that time onwards, I started living on my own. And in my primary school, I used to be school first, and in my high school, and then in my year 10, and I came school third or so. 3 of us used to compete, and then in the final exam, and I ended up being third in the class. So really, I want to really pay my gratitude to 2 of my high school teachers. Without their help, I would not be here today. So because I would have not been able to finish my high school, I would probably be helping my father in his farm rather than being able to really study further also. So then I ended up moving to a nearby town called Guntur, and then I studied my year 11 and 12. But because suddenly, I was living with a teacher, he was a very strict disciplinarian, and he used to beat us up in those days, because in those days, by the way, that teachers are allowed to beat students to really make sure that they're studying well. And so suddenly I started living in a town, and then, there was nobody to keep an eye on me. And then I didn't do very well in my year 12. So in fact, it was a shock for my parents, it was a shock for my teachers, and it was a shock for me as well that I didn't do very well in year 12. And so that was my first failure. I couldn't get into engineering. But generally in India, and I'm sure that in most of the Asian countries, that's the same. And is that if you're good in maths, you're expected to be an engineer. If you're good in biology, you're expected to be a doctor, because most of the jobs were available in those 2 professions. In other professions, it was much more difficult to find jobs. So that's why parents always encouraged you in those days. I'm talking about, about 40 plus years, 45 years back or so. So then they used to encourage people to do engineering or medicine. In fact, in India, still people have that obsession for kids to study medicine or engineering sort of thing. So that was my first failure. I could not get into engineering. And then I ended up going and doing bachelor's degree. So, and in nearby another town, and I did okay, but nothing great. My bachelor's degree, BSc marks are better than my year 12 marks, but nothing really spectacular where you have to write to your grandmother saying that what a wonderful thing you have done, sort of thing. So it so turns out that I have enough marks to get into MSc Tech Applied Physics, but not been able to get into pure physics. MSc Pure Physics, they used to expect to have slightly more marks than if you want to get into MSc Tech Applied Physics. This is more of an applied area rather than a pure physics area, sort of. So I had gone to one of the top universities in my state, Andhra University, and so then I did my MSc Tech Applied Physics with electronics as a special subject. So this is an MSc Tech, which is a 3-year course after finishing of 3 years of bachelor's degree. Normally MSc Pure Physics is 2-year course. So in this course, mostly they've taught us electronics. Essentially what they've done is they've packaged electronic engineering degree of 4 years into 3 years, and then they've called it as MSc Tech Applied Physics. So there also that initially I was not doing very well because I was very active in the student union politics. And then I used to help other students to get scholarships, or if they have a problem with them getting any issues, hostel problems or something or the other. And I used to spend a lot of time in helping them. And then after finishing, of course, because of the fact that I was not spending as much time in my studies, and so then I failed in my first year of the material science courses. So which again I will come back to, and I have done in other courses okay, but in material science courses I failed. And but then after in my 3rd year of MSc Tech, and I have contested for student union elections, and but I failed despite the fact that many students whom I was helping, and at the time the elections came, and they were all trying to focus on caste, because in India caste is one of the things. And they wanted to go and vote for the people from their caste, because I never believed in the caste system. And I always believed in the humanity and universal humanity, and all of us are the same. It doesn't matter whether you're black or white, or what color you have, what religion you have, what caste you have. It's all irrelevant, and we're all human beings. And anyway, I failed in my in the context of becoming a president of the College of Science. So then I quit my politics, and then I ended up studying fully in my final year, and I was able to finish my MSc Tech with the class 3rd again. So I was class 3 in my year 12, and then again I came back to class 3rd in the class in my MSc Tech, despite the fact that the first 2 years I was spending more time in politics and all these things. So really, I've really got redempted myself in terms of trying to get back to studies and then focusing on studies from that time onwards. And I've only focused on my studies or my research and other things, and I really try to do my best, sort of thing. So as I mentioned, I studied initially in my mother tongue Telugu medium up to year 7. And in year 12, in fact, and then only I started doing my English medium in my bachelor's degree or so. So, and also that when we finished our year 12, when we had to contest for some entrance exams to get into engineering, but the entrance exams used to be in English, but all my studies were in my Telugu medium, so that means even half of the questions they were asking we didn't know. So that was again a bit of a challenging time for me at that time. But as I already mentioned, in my village, there was no electricity even during my PhD, and we had to walk 5 miles if it rained in a barefoot to reach home after traveling from Delhi. I did my PhD from Delhi University, and I had to travel 24 hours by train and by bus to a nearby place, and then walk 5 miles to go home. And in fact, all these are mud roads, and sometimes they used to have a lot of thorns on the roads. And my sister used to remove all the thorns from using safety pin next day morning, and because we were going bare feet, because when it is rain and other things, it's so much mud, you cannot wear your sandals or shoes because it's you cannot walk, and then you have to really essentially go for bare feet. So that really gives you that the modest background and I've come from, and so really very difficult background I've come from, sort of thing. So really, it doesn't matter. And then how difficult your life has been, how challenging your life has been, and what a small place you came from, all these things are irrelevant. Important thing is to really see what you can do, what difference you can make to the world, and then motivate yourself and stay focused and then do that. So I finished my my MSc Tech Applied Physics Electronics, and I started applying for jobs. So then I used to apply for physics jobs, and they used to say that you're not a physicist because of the fact that you didn't do MSc pure physics, you have done applied physics. And then because all the studies which I've done is in electronic engineering, and then I used to apply for electronics jobs. And then they used to say that none of your degrees is engineering, or your degree is not in Bachelor of Engineering or Bachelor of Technology, your degree is a Master of Science and Technology, so that means really you're not an engineer. So I was considered, I'm neither a physicist nor an engineer. I was not able to get any of the jobs. So it so happened that I'd gone to really apply gone to Delhi to apply for a master's degree in electronics program. And then I happened to visit University of Delhi, and where one of my friends was staying there. And then he said that he's applying for MPhil program in Delhi University in physics. And I've applied and I managed to get into that program. So that's how I moved into Delhi University, which is in the northern part. And then basically I am from the southern part of India, quite a far off distance. And then I did my MPhil and PhD in physics, and mainly working on semiconductors and developing thin films of semiconductors for a wide variety of optoelectronics applications also. So I finished my PhD in Delhi University, and I did well, and I published lots of papers. And so then I started applying for, I also got a position in one of the colleges as a lecturer in electronics, and they started bachelor's degree in electronics. And suddenly they were looking for people with electronics background, and my MSc electronics background turned out to be very useful. So and I've joined this Venkateshwara College in Delhi as part of the Delhi University or so. And during that period, and I started applying for postdoctoral fellowships in the overseas countries. So basically in those days, we didn't have any computers, we didn't have any internet, there was no emails, and we used to get magazines like Physics Today or IEEE Spectrum 6 months late by C-mail, because the universities there could not afford to really pay for air freight for those journals. So I used to go to the library every week and then look at the magazines, and then I used to apply for postdoctoral fellowships. And so then whatever I thought that is relevant to me. So really, I've applied for many positions, and then you can guess how many rejection letters I would have got. But of course, in this video talk, probably I cannot talk to you. Normally in the room, I would have asked the question. And some of the students used to say, oh, well, have you got 10 rejection letters or 50 rejection letters or 30 rejection letters or something like that. And some people used to say 100 rejection letters. So in fact, during the 3-year period, and I had more than 300 rejection letters, but I never gave up. It so happened my friend who has finished also PhD degree in Delhi University has gone to Queen's University in Canada, and then he returned back to do his PhD defense. And so then I told him that I am very frustrated. I have been trying for these postdoctoral fellowships. I am not able to get it. So then he said that, why don't you write to Professor David Atherton? And so he seemed to like students from Delhi University. And so the only thing is that he doesn't work in semiconductors, and then he works on developing magnetic techniques for detection of corrosion in oil and gas pipelines. So I said, well, nobody's giving me a job in semiconductors. I might as well write to this gentleman and then see what's going to happen. So by the way, unfortunately, only last month he has passed away at the age of 85. And so only I came to know that news yesterday and on Monday, and I was very emotional about it because of the fact that he really changed my life. So I wrote to him, and so then in those days, there was no email, and we used to send a letter. It used to take 2 to 3 weeks to go overseas countries, and then after 6 weeks or so, I got a letter from him saying that he doesn't have any positions at the moment, but he's applying for funding. And then if funding comes through, he'll offer me a job. So then after 6 months, I got an offer letter from Professor David Atherton from Queen's University in Canada to work in magnetic techniques, developing magnetic techniques for 2 years of postdoctoral fellowship with a possibility of extension for one more year. So in April 1988, I moved to Canada, and with no knowledge about any computers or anything, computers were just coming up, no knowledge of magnetism. So I had to put a lot of my time and effort trying to read about magnetism papers, and he asked me to set up a new experiment there. So then I had to learn about what are the equipment we need in order to be able to set up that equipment from reading the literature survey. Because, in doing PhD, you know how to really identify what is the knowledge out there. You know how to do literature survey. You know how to identify what are the knowledge gaps. You know what are the techniques people are using. And those are the techniques which you normally learn. And I've been able to use that one and then identified and then set up the lab and then started producing results. And by the time I finished my 1 year, and I ended up getting enough results to write one paper. And I was, of course, working 7 days a week. And because I was alone, and then I was a new country, I need to learn something, and it's a new field. And I wanted to prove to Professor Atherton that he gave me the opportunity. I didn't want to disappoint him. And I also want to learn something new. So by the time I finished my 2 years, and so then I ended up publishing about 10 journal papers. And my supervisor apparently was very happy with me, but I didn't know whether he was happy with me, and he's extended my contract for 1 more year. Meanwhile, another professor in the same department knew that he saw me all the time working and knew I'm a semiconductor person working in magnetism. One day he came and asked me, Jim Williams is starting a new department at the Australian National University called Electronic Materials Engineering, and he's looking for some good people. Would you like to go to Australia? And his name was Jim Witten. Unfortunately, he's also no more. And then I told Jim, look, I'm happy to go back to my field because though I'm enjoying what I'm doing, but my first love is semiconductors. And so then I gave my CV to Jim Witten, and then he faxed my CV to Jim Williams. And again, for 6 months, I didn't hear anything from him. But after 6 months, one day I got a fax, because in those days, still there was no emails, and then asking me whether if I'm still interested in the position, if so, and then he's happy to offer me a 2-year position or so. So then I told him that, yes, I'm interested. Meanwhile, my girlfriend finished her PhD in botany or plant sciences, and we got married, and then she came and joined me, and we were expecting our baby. So then I told him that we'll come in after our baby's arrival. That's how I arrived in Australia with a 2-month-old baby and a 2-year contract in July 1990. So in July this year, I'll be completing 30 years at the Australian National University, Australia's premier university, and there I started off as a postdoctoral fellow. So really, it's been a great ride for me. And again, that opened the doors for me. And again, Jim Witten is the one who opened the doors, and Jim Williams gave me the opportunity. And so then I have, in fact, gone from postdoctoral fellow to the distinguished professor title about 10 years back or so. And this is the highest title is given to you by any university. And so the particularly Australian National University being the top university in the country, I feel really I'm grateful to the ANU for providing me the opportunities to flourish. And so when I came to the ANU, we didn't have any facilities, and then I had to really go and buy BNC connectors and multimeters and other things. But now we got more than $20 million worth of facilities with 3 MOCVD reactors for depositing 3-5 semiconductors, and nano fabrication facilities for atomic lithography and inductively coupled plasma etching systems, to all sorts of things where we can start from designing of the devices, growth of the materials, characterization of the materials, and fabrication of the devices and testing of the devices, all in-house. But having said that, but we still collaborate with many people in the world, because we cannot be experts in everything in life. So it is important to really focus on your core research areas and then really reach out to other experts so that we can really collectively work together and make a better science. So now let me move towards, so people told me I'm not a physicist. When I finished my MSc Tech Applied Physics Electronics, when I was applying for jobs. But during the last 30 years or so, so now many organizations have recognized me for my contributions to physics, including American Physical Society elected me as a fellow, because generally only a small percentage of people get elected. And then Australian Academy of Science elected me as a fellow, which is again the highest recognition you can get. And the World Academy of Sciences elected me as their fellow. This is the academy for the developing countries, for my contributions to the physics and science in the developing countries. And Australian Institute of Physics has given me their highest medal. And so I'm a fellow of the Institute of Physics and Australian Institute of Physics, and foreign fellow of the Indian National Science Academy. The country which said that I'm not a physicist ended up electing me. and in Indian Academy of Sciences and various other academies, and Australian Academy of Science has given me for my contributions to physics. So then later on, I became the Vice President of the Australian Academy of Science, which is one of the highest honors. And most recently, I ended up getting BT Steel Medal for my contributions to optics. So really, at one stage, people told me I'm not a physicist, but now everybody acknowledges me, I'm a physicist. So if somebody says something, you're not something, and you can work hard and prove to them they are wrong, and you can be anything. So that's the key message which I want to really convey. Okay. I told you also that I failed in material science programs as a material science during my MSc Tech. But then later on, American Material Research Society of US has elected me as their fellow. Electrochemical Society elected me as their fellow. American Vacuum Society elected me as their fellow. And then I served as the president of the IEEE Australian Material Research Society. International Union of Material Research Societies has given me their highest award of the SOME Award for my global interactions and global collaboration with the material science community. And Electrochemical Society has given me an award. And then again, International Symposium on Compound Semiconductors, again, the material science people have given me the awards, and including American Vacuum Society also. Again, people told me I'm not a material scientist, but now everybody acknowledges me that I'm a world-renowned material scientist as well. Then people told me I'm not an engineer. And again, of course, engineering also has recognized me with a fellow of IEEE and IEEE Nanotechnology Pioneer Award, IEEE Photonics Society Engineering Achievement Award, and a Quantum Device Award, and a fellow of the Australian Academy of Engineering and Technology, foreign fellow of the Indian National Academy of Engineering. Again, the country which said that I'm not an engineer, and then elected me as a fellow, foreign fellow, and then also fellow of other societies. And of course, I've served as a president of the IEEE Nanotechnology Council about a decade back. And most recently, I served as the president of the IEEE Photonics Society. And I started a chapter in 1993 in Australia. And then I realized that there are no chapters in Australia for this particular society. And then be able to reach to the president of the society, again, by hard work and by working with people. And UNESCO has recognized me as a science and technology for my contribution to nanoscience and nanotechnology. And most recently, Electron Devices Society recognized me as the Education Award. And this year, US National Academy of Engineering. This is one of the most toughest recognition you can get, or the challenging recognition you can get. They've elected me as their foreign member. Well, long time back, people told me I'm not an engineer, but I end up getting the highest recognition which I could get. So again, the key message is it doesn't really matter what people say to you. If you believe in yourself, you work hard, you can achieve anything in life. There's no limit in life. Important thing is to be really aim for high. So now, in fact, 4 years back or so, even Australian government has recognized with the eminent service to the highest civilian honor, Campaigner of the Order of Australia, for eminent service to physics and engineering, and in particular nanotechnology for education, researcher, and all these things. So really, again, this is an indication to you that anything is possible, that if you really work hard, and then you prove to the world sincerity, you work hard, and then do your best. So that's very important. So now let me really tell you about what are the ingredients for success in life. So what is it we should be doing, and what I did, and what led me to these things. The most important thing in life is to choose something you're passionate about and have fun. Well, if you like video games, and if you're playing video games, you don't think of what is the time now, and I have to lunch or dinner or something. You keep on working, or your mom and dad have to call you, it's time for having dinner or lunch, please come, sort of thing. So because you're having fun. But again, in science and engineering also, if you choose something you're having great fun, you don't think of the time or anything, and you can spend a lot of time. You don't think as work. People ask me, how can you possibly work close to 40 years, 60 to 70 hours a week? Because I never see my work as work. I see it as fun. If I'm having fun, I never think of it as work. So that's the most important thing as well. Choose something you're passionate about, whatever it is you're passionate about. The second thing is that dream big and aim high. It is very important to aim high, because if you're not aiming high, you may achieve something and then you may not be able to achieve your full potential. You may have very high potential, but you're not making use of that potential to the fullest extent because of the fact that you're not aiming high. But again, focus on the big picture. So even if you're doing something and have a world view of your work. For example, if you're developing some fiber sensor, where you're going to use it. And think of it as not just working on a fiber sensor and then where this is going to have an impact. Apparently, a delegation was visiting NASA and somebody was painting the wall standing on a ladder. And then this delegation asked him, what are you doing? He said that he didn't say that he's painting the wall. He said that, I'm helping to put the man on the moon. So you see, he put his work into context. So that's why it is important for you to think about how to put your work into context as well. But again, you have to believe yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, who is going to believe you? So that's why first and foremost, you have to believe in yourself and build the self-confidence. So positive thinking is very important in life. Even if everything is going great, if you're thinking negative, you will go down. But if everything is going really bad, but if you think positive, you can come out. So I already told you, I had more than 300 rejection letters and I failed in material science. I could not get into engineering. I could not get into MSc pure physics. It doesn't really matter. Think positive, you can come out of these things. Hard work is absolutely critical. Lots of times I've had some students, those are brilliant, but they didn't realize that hard work is needed. They don't go anywhere. But then even with average intelligence, hard work, you can really achieve everything. In fact, most of you, those are attending this webinar or seminar, and you can really have already got the average intelligence needed to be successful in life if you put the hard work and work smart, and then you can achieve anything in life. Sometimes people ask me, I'm working very hard, but I'm going nowhere. Then I tell them, work smart. What do you mean by working smart? You have to understand the system and expectations. Say, for example, if your supervisor is expecting you to do something, but you're working hard, but working something else. So that means you're not meeting the expectations of your supervisor and our boss. That means, you're not really doing a good job. So that's why you always need to think about, well, if I'm finishing PhD and then, okay, what next job? And what is during my PhD, what is expected of me? And after finishing my PhD, become a postdoc, what is expected of me? When you become an academic or an engineer in industry, what is expected of me? At different stages, your different expectations are there. You should always try to understand them and try to work smart and hard so thereby you can achieve anything. And again, resilience and persistence is very important in life. We fail many times, but don't be afraid of the failure. Never give up. Well, I failed these things, I learn from this failure, and I'll try to improve myself. I will do a better job the next one. So you always need to learn from your failures and persist with these things. In research, for example, if you're a student, and many times experiments which we plan for fail, and don't be too down on yourself. You could have done any better, and try to do your best all the time. And then you can go and then try to really aim for what you can do in terms of, means learn from that one, try to persist with this one. Can-do attitude is one thing which you need to develop. Don't procrastinate. Sometimes, I will do it tomorrow. I will do it, this afternoon. But don't waste your time. Use your time effectively. Create core competency for yourself. If somebody wants you to come and offer you a job, or otherwise want to collaborate with you, you need to have something strong. You need to be an expert in something. So thereby everybody wants to really work with you and collaborate with you. Okay. That's very important as well. If you don't have core competency, then nobody wants to really looking for you because of the fact that you don't have anything to offer. Again, find mentors who can guide you and steer you. And of course, mentors change. And see that at the university level, you have different mentors. At the work level, you have mentors. Also that if you reach to different levels, you can find different mentors. And again, your immediate supervisor need not necessarily be always a good mentor. Because there may be sometimes, they may be have a conflict because they want to really get, some supervisors are very good. They're very good in terms of mentoring people. Some people want to make use of you, but they're not really thinking about your future. So that's why you need to go and ask other people and then ask you to guide you in the right direction so that you can achieve something, achieve wherever you want to go to. Collaboration and teamwork is very important as well. You may be great in doing something, but if you really can't work with other people, people will say that why, that means this person cannot be a good team player, and they may not be willing to really have you there. So that's why it is important to really do these things. And collaborations in research also, for example, can lead to multiplier effect. So always think of we rather than I. By working together, we can achieve much more. So that's what something which I wanted to focus on. Again, develop social and leadership skills. Sometimes some of us are extroverts, some of us are introverts. And again, you need to really get over that introvertness and then try to really develop some social skills and development of leadership skills. You know, when I told you that when I was going for interviews for after finishing my year 12, I could not speak English. So I used to really be afraid of speaking, but at the same time, you can really develop the communication skills. And it's a matter of practice. More you write, better your English becomes. More you give talks, and better your talks become. So that's why you need to really get over that fear. That's okay. Sometimes first time you do it, it may not be that great. And then you need to develop the writing skills as well. For example, if you're a PhD student and every paper you write a small summary of it for yourself. So that way you get into the habit of writing. Then instead of waiting till you're writing a paper or a thesis, that means that becomes a big barrier. Suddenly it becomes like a nightmare for you to do that. Again, in your group meetings, give presentations as often as you can. So thereby the presentations become a normal thing. It's not a big deal to be able to talk to 1,000 people. Then you got used to talking to 20 people or 30 people in your own research group. But again, develop entrepreneurship skills, because all of us are not going to become academics because the number of academic positions are very limited. So, but also many of us can go and start companies, because sometimes, starting company, instead of looking for a job, you can create jobs for others. I started a company to commercialize some of our laser technology in 2000, but ultimately we had to close it after 18 months or so because of the fact the communications market collapsed at that time, and then many startups had to close. But I never really regret that because I've learned a lot about how startup companies and what are the challenges, how to translate a research idea into a product and so many things. Don't be afraid of failure, okay? But that means the experience you gain is, will make a big difference. Even if you fail, if you go and start a company, particularly as a young person, and start a company, even if you fail, and then the experience you gain is very valuable for you in life. How to really pitch for funding, how to really work as part of a team, and how to really be able to be creative also. Don't be afraid of failure. Honesty and integrity take you a long way. It is again very important. And sometimes people think that they want to take shortcuts and do dodgy things, but people come to know in the global community, and then everybody knows who is an honest and person whom it's trustworthy and work with, and who are the dodgy people, and people don't want to really deal with dodgy people also. That's why honesty and integrity is very important. Again, get involved in the profession, networking. So many of the the people, those who have become my referees, for example, are due to my interactions with IEEE Photonics Society and Electron Devices Society. And then people, distinguished lecturers whom I invited when I started a chapter, and they came and saw what we were doing. And then they were very impressed with what we were doing. They started promoting what we're doing. That's why I didn't have to go and tell people what we're doing. And they all became my referees and all things for promotions and all these things. So that's why being involved with the professional societies is important. Networking is important as well. And be kind and generous to others. If you're a boss, and to your students and team and collaborators, because generosity always takes you a long way, And also if you do good work and being involved in the community, recognitions follow. Sometimes people spend a lot of time chasing awards after award, but they're not focusing on science or engineering. That means people also know who are the award chasers, and people, in fact, stop supporting them because of it becomes sick of that sort of thing. So that's why I try to do a good job and be part of the community, and then network with people, and people will start asking you, they want to nominate you for one award or the other and things like that sort of thing, okay? And again, generosity. Pleasure of giving is much more immense than pleasure of receiving, okay? Sometimes some people, always thinking of themselves, me, me, me. That means, they really don't know what they're missing out. See, if you help somebody, it makes you very happy. You really support somebody, it makes you very happy. Say, for example, you go and then buy some something for some person who is who is on the street, for example, who is homeless or something, and then you may spend only $5 to give somebody, but in fact on the day you feel more happy because you helped somebody. Pleasure of giving is really immense, and never start experiencing that. It doesn't have to be, you need to be rich. You don't need to be like Bill Gates or Warren Buffett or somebody. And all of us can start with $5, for example. Okay. And $5 is not a huge amount of money for anybody in any part of the world. Okay. Work-life balance is important. And again, you have to look after your health. If you do, now we are seeing the pandemics, for example. If you don't have a good health, you cannot do much. And also you need to also spend time with your family. And because most of the time what happens is we give too much importance to work and then forget about health and family, we get into trouble. And we only realize the importance of those two after losing them or getting into trouble. So please don't do that. Look after your health and look after your family, and then you can focus on your work as well. Okay? And many times, many of us, including me, and we give too much importance to work, and then after losing health or getting into trouble with the family, then only you realize it. For example, if you're an academic career, see, your child's childhood only comes once. Don't miss it. Because afterwards, you may want to spend time with them, then you have time, but they don't have time for you. So you miss the opportunity to really spend time and create memories for yourself. And so that's why it is important to really spend quality time with your family as well. And again, see, the former president of America said, Harry Truman, it is amazing what you can accomplish if you do not care who gets the credit. Lots of times, sometimes, we focus too much on who gets the credit, and I don't want to help somebody, I may not get credit. But that means that's not the wrong way to look at it. You go and help people. If they give the credit, that's great. If not, at least you help somebody, makes you happy. But also those people also start feeling guilty that they didn't give credit to you, and then they start doing next time, make sure that they do that sort of thing. Okay? And in fact, Sir J.C. Bose, an Indian scientist who discovered wireless, and Marconi was given the credit for it, and then he was asked, how do you feel about it? He said, invention is more important than inventor. I don't care, but my invention has been recognized. That is more important to me, whether I've been recognized or not. So these are great people. Those are really something which we can learn from them also. Okay. So when we talk about success, when the society really makes us to think about, people say, if you get good grades, you'll be happy. If you get a good job, you'll be happy. You'll be successful. You're seen as successful. You get a high salary, you're seen as successful. You got a big house, you're seen as successful. You got a nice car like a Tesla or something, you're seen as successful. And if you find a true love and marriage, you'll see that you're successful. You got a big balance, you're seen as successful. You got awesome stuff, you're seen as successful. Sometimes you're beautiful, you're being seen as a success. People think that is success, because sometimes people go for plastic surgery and all these things. These are all things called money affluence or so. But really, of course, sometimes, you may want to have those things. There's nothing wrong in having them, but are they really going to make you happy? But in fact, many psychology studies show that in fact, all these things may make you happy for a short period of time. In the long period of time, they don't make you happy. In fact, what makes you happy is being healthy. That means do exercise or so, and sleep well, and have gratitude. I always think about people, those who make a difference for you. Your parents and your family, your teachers, and bosses who really made the difference for you to be where you are today. And also enjoy what you've got. And don't keep on chasing the next thing, but appreciate and value what you've got, and that's important. Kindness, which I already talked about, and also try to do some meditation and other things, and help others, and also develop good social interactions and have a good network of people. And instead of buying stuff, and experiences apparently gives you much longer happiness. For example, if you buy a music system, it only gives you happiness for a year or so, but afterwards it becomes part of furniture. But if those $1,000 you spend on a holiday, those memories will keep on going, and you look at the pictures, and then apparently will keep going. And then these things are makes you much more happier in the longer term or so. This is called as time affluence and developing the experience or so something. Most recently, due to COVID, I got a bit more time. I'm not traveling as much. I did a course on Coursera, a free course given by Professor Laurie Santos from Yale University. And in fact, she talks about science of well-being. And I encourage you to do that one and develop some of the things which she encourages you to do. So really, all of us want to be happy. And of course, we want to be successful. And also, sometimes success need not necessarily lead to happiness. So that's why you need to develop the techniques to really make you happy as well. So that's why I really updated my talk with this slide. So this is very important. What about me? What did I do in terms of giving back? Well, I support schools in India. My schools where I did this thing, I've created some best student awards, building a room in my village school. When I asked them, what do you want? They said, well, we got computers, but we don't have a room. So we need money to build a room. And then I created an endowment along with my wife, Vidya, at the Australian National University for students and young scientists from developing countries to come and spend some 3 months at the ANU. And in fact, whatever we have donated, this was matched by the university, and this endowment has reached to 800,000 or so. And my dream is, before I retire, and we wanted to really create $1 million endowment, so that even tomorrow, if I am run over by a truck, this will help a future generation of students and young scientists coming from the developing countries to spend some time or so. And again, we created Australia-India Strategic Research Fund. That's from the government, but I championed for it so that exchange of students and projects can take in place. Kiva, this is loans to entrepreneurs. And again, if somebody needs $1,000, and so for example, they want to buy a buffalo or a cow, or otherwise fix their car and do something or the other, and then 40 people end up giving $25,000 each. This is a loan, and they repay back it. So this is a wonderful program, and we have really given close to 800 loans now, or in 77 countries, and mainly focusing on women. If you empower women, and then the families are also in a better shape, and society is in a better shape or so. Again, $25 is not a huge amount of money. And in fact, I gave this talk in Indonesia. That's why I was including Indonesia as well. So 77 developing countries or so. So that means, we can really make a big difference. And again, you can use the same money to really help the next person or so. So that's why, even though I put only $5,000 there, and I was able to give out 800 loans or 1,800 loans or so, before I retire, I want to really give 3,000 loans. And again, making a difference, because it's a hand up, not a handout. Because these are the people, those who want to help themselves, but banks don't want to give them the loans or so, but we can help them in a small way or so. But you say that, well, $25 is, I'm a student, I don't have too much money. And then I say, well, what about $5? Well, solar aid, really, there are about 700 million African families who have no access to electricity. Lots of kids study in front of a kerosene lamp, and they breathe lots of kerosene smoke. In fact, I used to get sick all the time when I was childhood. I didn't realize it, but now I realize, because I was studying in front of a kerosene lamp. So how about we donate $5 to the solar aid? So they provide a subsidized LED lamp, solar LED lamp. So thereby they can leave the lamp outside to charge it during daytime. Nighttime kids can study. It gives a much brighter light, and also it's a much, much more cleaner position to be in. And so thereby kids can have a better health and better education, because education ultimately really lifts you, and then also provides you better opportunities and improved quality of life for people or so sort of thing. That's a very small amount of money we're talking about. US dollars, I'm talking about maybe Singapore dollars, $8 or so sort of thing. That's less than a cost of a lunch. So all of us should be able to do that. And nobody can claim that I cannot really donate $8 or so. So really, you can see, you don't have to be rich, and you have to be rich in heart, and you can make a big difference. And to date, we have provided more than 50,000 lamps. And most recently, these are only in Africa. I came to know there's an organization called Pollinate Energy, which is providing solar LED lamps in India and Nepal. And we started donating this particular group or so. So thereby, we're really enabling particularly women in India and Nepal, in the remote parts, where they can make use of these lamps and things like that. So you can see that we can all do some things. Based on the success of our endowment, where we were only providing 5 or 6 scholarships to really support these students from the developing countries, ANU has created its own program called Future Research Talent Scholarship Program, and where they have really provided last year 53 scholarships to students from India and Indonesia, for example. They can come and spend some time there or so. See, whereas our endowment is for anybody in any part of the developing country, it is not restricted to India, but whereas ANU has been targeting India and Indonesia, because we get a lot of students from China, for example, but relatively speaking, we got very limited number of students from Indonesia and India. So that's why they are focusing on that particular one or so. It's a really, in fact, I came back from Oxford last year, where I was spending time, and then really gave this particular talk, and then met with them. It was really a pleasure to see these students, and then seeing they're so bright students, really be able to help them in a small way, essentially opening the doors for them. See, they come and work with people. They don't work with me. They work with lots of other academics. So thereby they developed a network, and then if they do a good job, they may invite them back to do PhD with them. or otherwise they become like a reference for them for their jobs or anything which they want to do. So really that helps people as well. In fact, they met with our Vice Chancellor, Brian Smith, who Nobel laureate, and so it was a pleasure for them to meet a Nobel laureate while during their visit. And Indian High Commission and has hosted them. And then also they visited, we have taken them around and then showed them different parts of the country as well. So really a small program which we started, now it's really helping much more people. So that's why you get an idea, you start in a small way, and if people like that idea, it may help, other people may jump in that one as well. I think I'll stop here. And so I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. And then you can also, if you can't ask me questions now because of time limitation or something, feel free to send me an email. I'm happy to respond to them as well. But please mention in the email that you've attended this seminar and then you have got a specific question about something or the other. I think I'll stop here, Perry, and then I'm happy to answer any questions.